realize I'm in the middle of the time of my life. I'm never so packed for the stack, never lied on.
Greetings and Happy New Year. Welcome to another episode of Real Talk with Dr. Steve Gallen III. We're very excited to return to 2025 after the holiday season. I know that many of you have had an enjoyable, productive, and very relaxing holiday recess, but we're excited to get back to the work of Miami-Dade County Public Schools and deal with issues that are going to be relevant to not only our district, but our community. I'm very excited today to speak to one of our guests who is representing the Office of Educational and Economic Opportunity. Many of you may know that Miami-Dade County Public School is the third largest school district in the nation. We are a leader, an A-rated school district in the space of education in terms of providing educational opportunities to our students, our employees, our families, and most importantly, our community. But we are also a significant economic engine, north of $7 billion budget on an annual basis outside of that which is allocated for federal funds. We have an individual who is no stranger to the district. She is, quite frankly, a lifelong educator, a product of Miami-Dade County Public Schools, a former principal, a district administrator, and that is none other than the person of Dr. Linda Amica-Roberts, who is the Assistant Superintendent for the Office of Educational and Economic Access. Welcome.
Thank you, Dr. Gallen, for having me.
Yes, I'm very excited to have the conversation, and I'm equally excited about an event that we have coming up that will provide a platform and an opportunity, and equally important, a pathway for our small and local businesses to learn about how to do business with Miami-Dade County Public Schools. But we'll get into that. But before we get into that, an office is just an office. A district is just a district. A school is just a school. An organization is just an organization. I've always believed in my 34 years in education, now 35, that the fulcrum of any organization, the fulcrum of any office, the fulcrum of any effort is predicated on the individuals. And you are an individual who, in many circles, needs no introduction. You have been a staple in this community. You have been an extension and a conduit for Miami-Dade County Public Schools to so many community-based organizations and schools throughout the county. But many people have heard your voice on the phone. They've seen your name on documents. But tell my viewers, who is Linda Amica-Roberts? So just give me an overview of your background, your career pathway, and how you've arrived to this very critically important position to be head of educational and economic access.
Wow, thank you, Dr. Gallen, for that question and for this opportunity. I think Linda Amica-Roberts is a person who's very passionate about education, about students. I think I'm that person that in every role that I've had in the district in Miami-Dade County Public Schools, as a teacher, as an administrator in underserved schools, those are the only schools that I've ever served, and I've built strong relationships in those communities. I am a person who believes that it takes more than just one person to do the work. You have to leverage supports from organizations, whether it's community-based, faith-based, and I think that's been the key to a lot of my success as a teacher, as an assistant principal, as a principal, and then as an ETO administrative director. I've taken a lot of that philosophy along the way because it was a big part of my success in the process of making sure that my first focus has always been on students and families. And with that, we've been able to really work and move schools, working with organizations. And so when I came to the district, I brought that with me, and I've made it a point to make sure that I know who the organizations are in the community, what they stand for, and how they can be a part of what we do in terms of those symbiotic relationships and giving back to the students and families of Dade County so we can be about the business of education. So I don't know if you want to know anything about my educational background.
Yeah, well, this is real talk.
Okay.
So that's real talk, unfiltered. I don't come in with a script. I don't anticipate. So I'm real organic in terms of wanting to deal with critical issues and really get an understanding of not only the initiative, but the person. And I believe in the law of proximity. When people in education start out by saying, I was a classroom teacher, that's analogous to saying you had me at hello. So that tells me you have the bona fides, that you have the experience, that you have been on a pathway that represents the core technology of what education is all about. That is teaching and learning. So give me a sense of your background. You're a product of Miami-Dade County Public Schools?
I am. I am
said
a product.
that I wasn't
yes.
sure. I swung for the fences. I didn't think you came from a private school or somewhere else. But give us your background. You're from Miami-Dade County Public Schools. You went away to school. You came back and you started teaching where? So kind of walk me through your background.
Absolutely. And so actually, I came back. My degree is actually in speech.
Okay.
So
where'd you graduate high school?
I graduated from South Dade Senior High School.
I won't hold that against you.
Okay. I ran track for South Dade Senior High School.
You get points for that.
And
what'd you run?
440.
Okay.
And on the relay, I ran the open, and I also ran the open 220.
Were you good?
Honestly, I was really good at it, but somewhere I lost the passion for it.
Did you run through high school?
I did.
Okay.
I ran through high school. I did not make any attempts for college because I think I lost the passion, and after so many injuries for those who are in sports, and I guess it just wasn't there for me.
Yeah, but I believe in
back
Florida
to
City, the county line road. But I am somewhat partial to those of us in Liberty City, obviously. Shout out to Miami Northwestern Senior High School. I was the principal. I'm a graduate of there. And we have actually, when you mention track, you can't mention track without mentioning Miami Northwestern Senior High School.
That's correct.
Especially girls track with Carmen Jackson. So I just have to give a shout out to her. So you went to South Dade Senior High School.
I did.
You graduated and you went to?
I went to Miami-Dade for a while,
Okay.
but then I transferred to the University of Florida,
okay.
which is where I got my degree. And then ironically enough, the old saying, God proposed and man disposed, I had gotten a full scholarship for law school. But I came from a family that they couldn't support me further. I needed to do it myself.
Yeah.
So that's how I ended up coming back to teach. Ida Whipple, who was a member of my church and like a godmother.
Dr. Whipple.
That's right.
That's
she
right.
helped me get my first teaching job. And she said to me, why don't you see if they'll hold your scholarship, teach for a year. And can I tell you, I just never went back.
And the rest was history.
The rest was history. So that's kind of where God made the decision that this is where I was supposed to be. I thoroughly enjoyed teaching. Went into...
Where'd you teach at first?
My first assignment they sent me was to Bentry Elementary.
Okay.
As a teacher, and then I went with Maybelline Truesdale to when she left Dunbar to open a school in Kendall. Okay. So I did that for a minute, and then ironically, when you talk about the path, when I went into administration, my first assignment as AP was in the same neighborhood in Florida City.
That's a blessing.
It was, but it was kind of scary because then my first assignment as principal was directly in the community where I grew up, where I knew everybody, which was a challenge, but it was actually my calling because I was able to impact a lot of families and kids. It really kind of helped me understand my true path in knowing that, I was placed there for a reason.
When we look at our roles as educational leaders in terms of those who we have direct contact with, but when you start to speak about working in a community that you grew up in, there's a phrase that says, what they see is what they'll be. You can't imagine the people that you've impacted that you did not have any direct contact with because you're in the community in which you grew up in. I had the same benefit being the principal of Holmes Elementary School and then the principal of Miami Northwestern Senior High School where I graduated from. Can you imagine? So we've all been tremendously blessed, and I agree, man plan, God laughs, and he has a different plan for our professional and personal lives. So you became a principal, and what was your next role in the district?
So then my next role after, I don't remember, but if you recall, it was some years ago when I opened Coconut Palm. But then Dr. Crew only closed one school, and that was Naranja. And so he called me in and said, we're going to move all those kids to your brand new school because it's a failing school, and we believe that you can move it. And I can tell you that if I had to do it all over again, I would only work in schools that I can move, because that's where I felt like I could see, I can see my results, because we brought in, and I say we because it was a team of us, we brought in some strong people from the community to help with interventions, with mentoring. We really made it a point to leverage what we needed to do because the expectation was to remove that letter grade from that school. Because back then, if you closed the school, wherever, they told me then 30% of those kids, you inherit that grade. So I opened a brand new school with a letter grade of F. And so we were trying to work hard to move that school. And along the way, I just kept seeing, what my calling was. And it was about moving the school, but really it was about looking at, because I don't believe any school is an F. I think all schools, no, not all schools can be an A, but no school should be an F.
Yes.
And so when you look at that, it was me and this team working night and day to try to figure out what we needed to do.
So you principal, next position, director,
Yes.
region, ETO?
ETO. So I
Okay.
came downtown after that experience, and that move where he led me to move that school was the eye on me to say, hey, you've worked with ETO schools, we're going to bring you down to support ETO schools. And so that's what my next assignment was.
And then you've been a fixture in school operations, working with community-based organizations through affiliating agreements, because I can tell you, if anybody has any interest and has any issues with regards to partnering with schools, Linda Amica-Roberts is the name they usually call to be the one to provide some solutions to that. So you've done that for a while, and now you're in this new role. So let's talk about your new role, but equally important, let's talk about the evolution of the Office of Educational and Economic Access. I know we've transitioned from previous descriptions and names of offices, but let's talk about that evolution and what this office represents.
And I thank you for that question and the opportunity to explain it. So when we talk about education and economics, it's two prongs, but it's the same purpose, right, of what we're trying to do. We're trying to support underutilized businesses, local businesses. And so when we talk about that, we're working on trainings, we're meeting with them, we're helping these businesses with the paper, looking at where the disparities are as it relates to the organizations or the businesses, specifically certain industries, right? Some of them that we're finding is technology. We could do a better job of looking at our underutilized firms and working with them so they understand the needs of the district, and then they're able to bid on projects. And that's with all of our support there on that side, training, meeting with them, guiding them through the process. That work is not different, and making sure they have access to bids, understanding what they need to do. Then we're also looking on the education side, and I'll take the term from you, where we're trying to look at the opportunity gaps in education. So on the education side, we're doing the same work, but we're just looking at access. What is it that students need access to? Where do we have an abundance of access? And then how can we make sure those educational experiences transcend to others? At the same time, we are looking at a lot of the businesses, and we've developed steps for them to give back, calling it a symbiotic relationship, right? Where we're supporting these businesses, they're getting bids, but then how do we leverage their efforts in helping us on the education side? So that's really what our office is focused on. The district has done phenomenal work. Thank you and the board for your leadership when we talk about advocating for local businesses. The board has really done a phenomenal job in advocating. And with that, it allowed us to support and provide take this work to the next level.
You would have some, and I would definitely create the barrier between the political dynamics that come with these particular issues and discussions for you. But this is real talk for me. I call balls and strikes. You have a faction of people in this community, state, and quite frankly, throughout this nation that would ask, why is that important? I know that you focused on local, and the transition came from diversity, and I understand that that has been a hotbed issue, and that's not one that I seek to engage you in, but I think it runs counter to what this country has represented. This country is built on diversity, access, and opportunities for all people, no matter what their backgrounds may be. But with respect to the focus on local businesses, tell me why is that important? Now, I'll keep you out of the diversity discussion, but for local businesses, why is that important?
So for local, it's important because of our just the mere fact of our ecosystem, the Miami-Dade County ecosystem, right? And when you ask the question about our office and the evolution, a lot of when we're asking or leveraging the supports of our local agent organizations and businesses, it's here. It's right here in Miami-Dade County. Those are the individuals who are supporting initiatives that are directly here, right here in Miami, that is directly linked to what we're trying to do for students. And we're trying to bring it home to local businesses that, you know, Miami-Dade County Public Schools is a large provider of opportunity in terms of economics. But when you look at our true purpose, it is education. That's really who we're about. And so if we make sure that our focus is on local, then we can engage more with local businesses in the way of making sure that they have access to bidding, but also that they are part of the initiatives related to education.
Well, some would also argue, and it has been argued specifically by one of our business partners, ironically, not an African American, a Hispanic American. Their predicate was the fact that they pay taxes. And it's ironic, about 6 years ago, I'm working on a different project, and they had a clip of me talking about this whole issue of access, inclusion, and opportunities. And I made the statement, the same people we're talking about, they pay taxes too. They pay taxes too. That's a direct quote from the clip that they're using. And when you start to talk about local businesses, we are a district, unlike many other districts throughout the state of Florida, that the significant portion of our revenue comes from local taxes. So people do have some sense of expectation for the spirit of reciprocity. I invest, I pay taxes in this district, I should have an opportunity to access business relationships with the district that I support from a local level versus a business or a taxpayer out of Omaha, Nebraska that wants to do business here, but they're not investing in the school district from a tax investment standpoint, from a community engagement standpoint, and from a relationship building and sustaining standpoint. Can you talk about how that's important from a perspective of those who pay taxes and should have an opportunity from a local standpoint, irrespective of whether they're white, African American, Hispanic American, local, tax investment, revenue producers should have an opportunity. How has that been important? Have you heard that discussion?
We have heard that discussion, and what we said, we were having this discussion the other day because it did come up to us as well. And I think one of the conversations is that drill down in terms of definition of paying taxes, right? What's being paid, and how it's being paid. So even if that company in Nebraska is getting that bid, right, or they've won that particular bid, we actually don't know exactly, what, when they speak about in terms of paying taxes, right? What does that mean, and what does it look like for the Miami-Dade County Public Schools or Miami-Dade County's ecosystem in terms of our efforts in making sure that we are focused on local.
Well, their declaration speaks primarily to being homeowners, business owners, property taxes. That's their primary declaration as it relates to the investment in the Miami-Dade County Public Schools from a local standpoint. So if I don't own a home in Miami, if I don't own a business in Miami, it's very unlikely that I'm paying local property taxes,
correct,
which represent the bulk of the investment for public education in our district.
Yes, and I think that's that came up on one of what we call where we're putting goals on projects. It came up from one of the businesses that's not local, and saying that, well, we do that. That's a current argument, right? Particularly in construction and A&E, with a lot of the non-local prime vendors bidding on projects, and that is one of their arguments to us, is that we pay taxes as well, and that not all of the funds that you are utilizing is coming from local. So we do follow those guidelines and looking at where the funding is coming from. We know what those statutes are, and we know where the boundaries are when we talk about local and where we can put those goals on projects in the funding, right? So that is very clear. But when it is local, dollars, that should be the focus, I think.
And that's why this office, and to your credit, your role is so important, and we have to have an individual who understands how important it is and how compassionate one must be in threading that needle between the importance of local businesses, but also understanding that potential partners out of state may have greater capacity.
Correct.
So that transitions to the question of capacity. Let's talk about what we're doing in terms of some local initiatives to build the capacity of our local businesses to be ready, willing, and able to bid and successfully deliver services and products to the Miami-Dade County Public Schools. Because whether you're local or not, it doesn't matter. It matters whether or not you're able to perform. So let's talk about performance, and let's talk about what your office is doing to increase awareness, but also to support capacity in more specifically an event that we have coming up. And I want to, before we end this segment, I want to talk about the educational piece, but let's talk about the initiatives that we are embarking upon this month. So why is that important? You want to talk about that, please?
Absolutely. So I think in terms of not getting into the event, but to answer your question, if I can, starting with the first part of the question, when you talk about the RWA, Ready, Willing, and Able, in taking that deep dive and looking at a lot of their businesses and what we've created. So it's an opportunity for me to give this shameless plug, right? That we're establishing a MDCPS business incubator. And it's not like your typical
give all
one,
the plugs.
right?
We want to know everything that's available, but your vision for the office and what our viewers and our local businesses and partners can anticipate in the very near future. So please feel free.
Thank you. So this incubator is really designed with that in mind, the Ready, Willing, and Able, because what we've done in our research and taking a deep dive is that the definition of Ready, Willing, and Able looks different from our district departments when they ask about Ready, Willing, and Able. And then when you look at the actual businesses who are bidding, their understanding of being ready, willing, and able. And so what we've decided is that we need to invest more in looking at the underutilized firms, the companies, the ones or businesses that don't have a lot of experience in working with Dade County Public Schools, to really be able to share with them what they need to do business with Miami-Dade County Public Schools. I'll give you a really good example of one that came up. And we were surprised that this was the first time that it came up. So when we started researching the number of companies for roofing that is actually ready, willing, and able, that number was very high. But when we took a look at the utilization of those firms, there was a very small number that's being used. So when we kept digging deeper and asking questions, why is that? Are they bidding? This large group of what we call ready, willing, and able, why aren't they bidding, or why aren't they winning? It was because of a very simple thing. They were not aware of the specific products that we require for projects like roofing at the time. So they were being
unsuccessful,
or they couldn't find the manufacturers that they needed. So they weren't either stopping their process of bidding or they weren't winning the bids. So then we took to having these outreach events, bringing in all of the our roofing companies so that that department could share exactly what is needed, allowing them to now go back and be able to make sure that they have the right products needed in terms of manufacturing that we need for whatever the roofing projects are.
This is primarily an information knowledge gap.
Information and knowledge gap. So, but when you talk about RWA, we played a role as a district in making sure that they knew what the definition of RWA was for that particular industry. And so we then had to make sure that we transcended that to the roofing companies, because their argument is that we're not getting bids. they never would have known this information. So when you talk about education, that is our goal, is not to just throw the net and cast it wide, but take a real good look at what information we're imparting and how we're sharing that with businesses.
And I think that's tremendously important. We are Miami-Dade County Public Schools. Our mission is education, but we do have bear some role and responsibility for being altruistic, compassionate, and caring. Others would argue, cynics would argue, that in a meritocracy, in one that is really predicated on capitalism, it's either a sink or swim type thing. And I think that paradigm is what perpetuates the disparities that we've seen. I haven't spent any time talking about disparities, but Dade County Public Schools has a well-documented record of disparities with respect to African American women-owned firms doing business with Miami-Dade County Public Schools. And this is not what Dr. Gallen is saying. I said this years ago. It's what a report said, a validated report by an independent group. Made a determination, and we have made some improvements, but when we start talking about parity, we do have a ways to go. But I think looking at the local community, looking at this with a local lens, whether you're black, Hispanic, white, women-owned, I think veteran-owned, I think this is a step in the right direction, and I'm excited to lead some of these particular initiatives. Before I get into the educational piece, we'll continue the conversation. We have an event that is scheduled. You want to talk about the event that we have scheduled? I'm excited about it because I initiated the event, shameless plug. I think it's important that we bring information. When you start talking about an information and knowledge gap, I want it to be intentional and deliberate and strategic and pragmatic about closing that information and knowledge gap and not having Miami-Dade County Public Schools being perceived as a black hole in terms of not knowing how to do business. So I'm very excited about the event we have planned in District 1. Want to talk about that?
Yes, and thank you for allowing us to participate and be a part of it, because I think that you've given us that platform for this event on January 23rd, doing business with Miami-Dade County Public Schools, District 1. You've given us the opportunity to really take a look at all of what we're trying to enhance in terms of our relationships and supporting these businesses. It's not your typical fair where people come out and want to share what they do, what they have in terms of business, right? This is really about making sure that, to your credit and your request, that we are sharing how to do business with Dade County Public Schools in a very intentional way. And part of that includes having the actual departments show up so that businesses have a face. It's a lot of different hoops and places. Of course, our office, OEEA, is happy to serve as the conduit for any business, but it is important for the businesses to know, whatever their industry is, who is the department in Miami-Dade County that I can ask questions, right? When the forecast lists come out, when do the projects open? All of these different things that they just don't have information about. Am I able to do business with the district regardless to what my business is? What exactly is it that the district needs? So this event is really focused on having all of the different district departments come, share possible forecast projects that's coming up, what the businesses need to do in advance to prepare, whether it's 6 months from now or a year from now, so that they're ready. We will also have our office there to give an overview and introduce the Office for Certification as well as pre-qualification. A lot of businesses we found are certified and have a vendor number to do construction projects such as plumbing and electrical, but they're missing a step. They don't know that they have to be pre-qualified. That's state statute. So we want to be able to make it very intentional about the information that they walk away with, feeling like they know who to contact and what steps they need to take next.
And I think that's so important. Bringing the departments in provides a myriad of opportunities for people to do business and provide goods and services to Miami-Dade County Public Schools. Historically, the perception circa 2012 was that Miami-Dade County Public Schools business opportunities are restricted or predicated on construction. Okay, that was linked to the general obligation bond, which we
Correct.
know has now sunsetted. We still have some projects that are pending and some additional revenue that may be expended. But when you start talking about procurement, that's a whole nother universe in terms of business opportunities to be explored. One item that I brought forth some years ago was looking at food service. For years, maybe decades, food service was an area that was not explored as a business opportunity. Forget minority, we're talking local. People just didn't explore doing business as a food service vendor. We've opened up that particular door. But when you look at curriculum, educational services, technology, health and related services, psychological services, I mean, there are just a myriad of opportunities to do business with Miami-Dade County Public Schools that people don't know about. And what I see January 23rd as being is a day of information and knowledge, because we've all heard that knowledge is power, and we want to create powerful opportunities for our community stakeholders at the local level, again, considering the underutilized firms and businesses, but again, create a platform and a potential pathway for them to work with us. So I'm very, very excited about that. And when we close the program, I want us to give additional information about that. But before we close out, we spent a lot of time talking about the economics of education in Miami-Dade County Public Schools. But we also have to always keep at the forefront the education of Miami-Dade County Public Schools when we start talking about the achievement gap. And I'm very, very proud of the fact that I was the author of the board item with the full support of my board, the unanimous support of my board, in which we became one of the first and few districts in the state, if not the nation, to have a policy that looks at addressing the achievement gap. We know that there are certain subgroups of students who are underperforming, underserviced, and have limited access to high quality educational programming. And we wanted to take a policy position to make sure that that is a part of a strategic dashboard to look at. And I've always predicated that policy drives practices. So if we want to change our practices, we have to shape our policy. So we have a policy that addresses the achievement gap. So your office is involved in educational access. What does that look like from an educational standpoint in terms of accelerating increased opportunities from an educational standpoint, and what do you see as the vision moving forward that will be different, and how would that guide that work and support the board's policy to ensure that we close as many gaps as we can, especially those that create impediments to achievement?
So I think I taken this language from our superintendent. He said, Linda, when you're looking at educational access, right, let us make sure that we are an organization that is reflective, right? That we are, and when we talk about us being an organization that's reflective, we're talking about taking those really deep dives into data, whether we do it ourselves, whether it's coming from the board and constituents or organizations, right? Are we able to take that deep dive and look at the data? Most principals, even departments, look at the data from one lens, right, or from a surface. But we're trying to take whatever is viewed in terms of data, and when you're looking at access, and we're taking those deeper dives. What are we seeing when we look at suspension data? Are we only looking at how many suspensions happened at a school? Are we taking that deep dive into looking at other issues that may be there? So that is one of the things that we're doing. Some of the organizations who go into MDCPS data, right, and they'll look at it and they come up with their own summations of what they think they see. So what we're doing is meeting with the departments, really taking a deep look at the data, looking at retention data. Is it certain groups, ethnicities? Is it ELL students? Are we really focused on it? Because as a principal, you're going about your business following policy, right? Statutes, the suspensions are happening, the retentions are happening. But who's really taking a look at, those numbers? Because, that's been one of the things that we've had concerns with, is not wanting to pull it back, right? And really look at it so we can then establish a process. So one of the things in our office that we've done is we're taking a look at not just the data and what's being brought forth of that may be an issue. The issue about the suspension data, it keeps coming up about certain groups, whether it's African American students, ESC students, and are we looking at that with the departments? Are we bringing in key individuals so that we can look at the practices that is happening in the schools, right?
Yeah, because practices are the only thing that is going to positively shape data outcomes. A lot of times we get the data, but we don't respond to it. And we have to obviously navigate a paradigm in public education, quite frankly, in the state of Florida, and I said it, you didn't, that we often find complacency in embracing the political, policy-driven, press conferences laden, public pronouncements of success. What do I mean by that? In that whole statement, the policy says we grade schools, so we do. The politics say a letter grade of A is better than a letter grade of F. We make the pronouncements, we make the press conferences based on us being an A district, having X amount of A and B and C schools. But taking a deeper dive does not deal with the last P, and that is the issue of proficiency. And where we still have legions of children who are underperforming, who are not proficient, despite the school being successfully graded as an A, B, or C, or what have you. But to look at the data points to say we still have to not be victimized by complacency. And I've always posited the reality that complacency is cancerous to the pursuit of excellence and equity. So if we become complacent, we won't pursue excellence and we won't pursue equity. And equity is about giving children not what we think they should have, but more importantly, what they need. And obviously, this is an extensive conversation. I'm glad that our superintendent and our board and under your leadership, we're committed to this work, looking at Miami-Dade County Public Schools from an educational and economic lens, and understanding that it's going to not simply be what the Dade County Public Schools does, but what we do by embracing the community, the stakeholder, the parents, and everyone who is willing and committed and obligated to put their shoulder to the wheel of this work. I'll let you have the last word moving forward, and inclusive of how our viewers can get more information about January 23rd, the event, and also how they can get more information about the work that your office is doing.
Oh, okay. So I think I'll start with the event. On our website, I think I have, you can follow us on at OEEA. Let me make sure I get it right, because I want it to be.
We'll put it
okay,
up.
so it's MDCPS OEEA. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and X, and we have all of our, we've posted your flyer, and we've sent it out, and our office, you can contact our office for information or to ask questions. Again, we do want our office, OEEA, whether you are a business or whether you are a faith-based or a community-based organization, allow our office to be the conduit for any opportunities or access that could exist for the students of Miami-Dade County Public Schools. I always say, if it's something that is going to benefit the students and families of Dade County Public Schools, it's our responsibility to find that workaround. So in this office, we've built a very strong team who understand and have embraced that, regardless to their role, is that when these opportunities for access comes about, whether it's for a business or for our students, then we're going to move mountains to make sure it happens. And we'll start that work at your event in District 1.
More specific information, the
yes.
event, date, time, location.
Yes. So the event will take place at Miami Norland Senior High School, January 23rd, 2025. And it will start at 6 o'clock in the auditorium, followed by breakouts where the organizations, businesses can interact with district staff regarding possible bid opportunities.
Great, great. And I'm looking forward to this being one of many opportunities that we provide for members in
Absolutely.
this community, and definitely appreciate the support, the commitment, the competence, and the professionalism of you and members of your team to make this event successful and the subsequent work that will be coming forward. As we close out, I always ask my guests to give a shout out to somebody that they would like to give a shout out to. So Dr. Linda Amica-Roberts, who would you like to give a shout out to?
I would just like to give the shout out to the Office of Education and Economic Access. You know, this evolution for us and for everyone in there has been a shift. And so I just want to shout out to all of them there. I don't want to start calling names, but I do appreciate the opportunity to give that shout out to OEEA, to the board, to you, Dr. Gallen, for your leadership in supporting this work, to our superintendent. And so we're just very grateful to that success, to you for support in our abilities to try to sustain success.
Yes, thank you so much. And I would like to give a shout out to District 1. Very honored and humbled to continue providing leadership and service and fight and advocacy to the constituents, the voters, the students, the families, and the community members of District 1 for the next 4 years. We have much work to do. We cannot get lulled to sleep and complacent and intoxicated by our prior success, because we still have tremendous hurdles and impediments and challenges ahead that I know together, as we have these previous 8 years, we can continue to move mountains on behalf of our schools, on behalf of our employees, on behalf of our parents and families, but most importantly, on behalf of our children in the years to come. Thank you, Happy New Year, and let's work.
Got a bag from the way that I write it. Queen looking Tyson. Do that, I survived doing 80 to the house. Then I hit it to the sky, changed haters on a tirade.